Hello there. It's Reverend Kate DuVivier. I'm from the Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad, California, where we take a team approach to teaching and demonstrating the truth that there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Last year, we set the theme for this month, November, as compassionate living. And today, my topic is kindness matters. Like our founder, Ernest Holmes, I believe that our ultimate creator, what we call God or spirit, is infinite, timeless, and good. And I believe that life is the necessary and natural manifestation of spirit. And that everything we experience, whether visible or invisible, is spirit made manifest. There is nothing but God. God is all and more. In The Science of Mind, our textbook, Ernest Holmes wrote that Jesus made the greatest claim upon God of anyone who ever lived. He demanded a complete and unreserved trust in the goodness and loving kindness of the Creator. And harking down the ages, since he lived and taught his marvelous philosophy to mankind, those who have followed his teachings have been justified in their faith. That's what we teach. Faith is important. And so is kindness. So what is kindness anyway? The dictionary says that kindness is the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. That sounds pretty good. We often think of kindness as being about doing kind deeds, taking actions. But I want to say that kindness actually is about being a certain way, bringing kindness into our beingness. Being kindness, being kind, is not just about doing kindness. I think it's easier to get that concept if you expand the idea of kindness into the idea of loving kindness. You know, loving kindness is a quality, a way of being, a way of feeling about others or the world or yourself. You can have loving kindness without actually doing anything. But when you have it, it's going to affect everything you choose to do. Loving kindness is really a special way of looking at the world. But where does this idea, this mindset of loving kindness come from? And how can we get more of it? You know, the ancient Greeks had a word, pathos, and they use it to describe the feeling, and they love theater, you know, so they use this special word to describe the feeling that a person in the audience felt when they were watching an actor in a play show a certain emotion, and the feeling of the person in the audience reflected or was in tune with the actor's idea. And in this case, it meant what we use our modern word pity for, to acknowledge or appreciate someone else's pain or their situation. Now, the word sympathy also comes from the Greek word pathos. But with sympathy, we're not only acknowledging or being aware of someone else's situation, but we're actually saying that we also care about it. When our best friend is sad about a loss, we can actually feel that loss. Maybe not as strongly, but we feel that loss to the same degree. This is sympathy. This is why we send sympathy cards, because we're showing that we are sharing and appreciating their feelings too. You know, the English word sympathy has been around for hundreds of years, but there's another word, empathy, which has really only been around about 100 years. It's more of a psychological term, or maybe it's a more developed term. So originally it was meant to describe the fact that you appreciate someone's situation, and you can also imagine their feelings, even though you aren't actually experiencing or sharing exactly the same feelings also. So I think, you know, if you go to a counselor, they may see you with empathy, not necessarily sympathy. So if you go to a prayer practitioner, they're going to see your situation with empathy, not necessarily taking upon themselves the very same emotional response as someone who is actually involved in a situation, who feels sympathy. So empathy and sympathy are very similar, and a lot of times the two words are used interchangeably. They're so close in meaning. So empathy means I understand your situation and I understand your feelings, while sympathy means I understand your situation and I too actually share your feelings. But of course, we're not dictionaries, so use it however you want. But I think it's important to be aware of the distinction, because it's always important to be aware of what we're thinking and how it is that our thinking is affecting our lives and the lives of others. Sometimes you might get so wrapped up in someone else's experience that you're not thinking clearly. But always, with both sympathy and empathy, you know, we're going to be experiencing as a feeling that's going to lead us towards looking at them with kindness, right? You know, we just tend to take it for granted, especially in our teaching, that everyone shares our belief that kindness matters. And that's the title of my talk, Kindness Matters. We just take for granted that everyone wishes to become more empathetic and more sympathetic to others and wants to actually help create a world that works for everyone. But even though, and I do, even though I believe it to be true, it doesn't always seem to be true. You know, at our center, we really don't get involved in politics because we have faith in each person's ability to study the issues, to study the personalities, and make their own highest and best political choices. Anyone can plainly see that our political party affiliations or lack of don't define who we are. I don't need to know who you voted for in order for us to continue learning together how to improve our lives using the science of mind and our spiritual tools like affirmative prayer, like meditation and study. But of course, I have to say, here in the United States, political hard feelings seem to be working themselves out in a messy way, and it is disturbing to many people. So I want to say right now, don't get too disturbed. You know, while the usual story that we tell children about the first American Thanksgiving is about pilgrims and the native people who shared their food with them to get them through the hardships of their first year in America, it wasn't actually until 1863 in the midst of the American Civil War, just after the Battle of Gettysburg, a terrible battle. It was then that President Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, proclaimed that we would set aside the fourth Thursday of every November for a national Thanksgiving holiday. A good thing that came out of hardship. Thanksgiving is a good thing. I think of these political hard feelings that are, in the American experience today as really just being something like a distant echo of the tumult that America went through long ago, more than once. The truth then is the truth now. And that is, as Lincoln put it, that America is still a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Still new, still growing, still learning, still hashing things out as best we can. As religious science ministers, our role is always to see and to proclaim the unity behind the diversity, and to know that diversity is wonderful. Just imagine if the only flower in the whole world was a pink rose. How common it would seem. How boring. No, we need life in all its forms. Life from our universe itself to our own personal individual life journeys is always changing. It's always expanding, and it's always expressing multiplicity and diversity. That is the truth. Now, a lot of times, getting back to disagreements, people have very complex motivations, and some are obvious, but others are not clear. The truth is that we're living simultaneously on 2 or maybe even more levels, both consciously and unconsciously. And it's my own opinion that a lot of the hurt that is going on right now is happening, or tends to happen, when we just allow unconscious thoughts to rule our lives. If we don't make conscious decisions, and if we just let things take their course without setting mindful intentions, then, because we live in a universal law, thought and actions will still have their consequences, whether programmed or not programmed. This is how it works for us as individuals, and this is how it works for each group, every group, whether it's just a family, a church, a nonprofit, a workplace, or a whole culture or nation. What we think creates the tendencies of our experiences. And gratitude creates a certain tendency. And kindness is a gratitude practice, because when we become grateful, we shift into an experience of feeling loving kindness. And when we experience loving kindness, we put that into action. I'm sure you've probably heard of the saying, practice acts of random kindness, right? Practice acts of random kindness is really a movement. It was great when it got started, and it's still going strong. People like it. It makes just absolute sense. And when they use the word random, they're talking about spontaneous or unselfish kindness. There's so many stories of people just paying for the person behind them in the drive-through food line, all kinds of just nice things to do. There's a whole website called randomactsofkindness.org, and you can visit it. It's got lots of resources for schools and families on the topic. There's another website called kindspring.org that's also full of practical, actionable ideas, kind things that can be done for others, and also exercises for learning to look at others with a kind heart, opening your eyes, seeing the world through the eyes of kindness. These are great free resources. And I got some good ideas there. I think you'd enjoy it if you have time to look, because the fact is, kindness begins by simply opening your eyes, simply noticing what's going on with another person. That's the first step. When you make that step, automatically your being responds with friendliness, with givingness, with helpfulness, as well as with awareness. We begin to notice when someone needs something. We begin to offer to share. We begin to think about them with love, to include them in our prayers. You know, often people really don't need a thing. They need a word of encouragement. It's creative kindness in all its forms that actually creates a sense of community. That's how life works. Life is a manifestation of this power for good. We call it God. Life is a manifestation of love in expression, but life leaves us free to think, to decide, and to wake up and claim our good by letting our conscious thoughts be our guide, instead of just letting our unconscious carry us forward, high and low, up and down. You know, I was raised in California in the United States, and probably like most of you, I was raised when everyone in my age group, I would say, pretty much was raised in this Southern California, was raised thinking of God the Father, not God the Mother. Now, of course, we realize like God is not, limited in any way. If God is our ultimate creative energy, our life source, if God is infinite, then God can't be limited to male or female or anything, or limited in any way. So, but the truth is, having grown up with it, when I hear someone call God a he, I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it anymore than if I hear someone refer to a sailing ship as a she. Our language may be limited, but spirit is unlimited. In our Christian traditions, this creator God is all powerful and created everything that we experience, good and bad. All the stories in the Christian Old Testament are filled with high drama, joy, war, birth, death, and a lot of judgment. It sounds from reading the Old Testament that God must be both feared and loved. Then along came Jesus. Jesus taught love. He really was the master teacher of how to live a life in love and faith. He was a bringer of good because he taught people to always have faith in the good. He was someone who really helped people then and still today sort out how to make clear and affirmative decisions and how to live with loving kindness and not just live according to traditions. He certainly didn't live according to tradition, right? He was a groundbreaker. And so I want to at least share some ideas about how we can use our sense of loving kindness, this gift taught to us by Jesus and others, of looking at the world through eyes of love, to make it through this situation, whatever situation you have, whether it's the coronavirus situation, whether it's personal loss, any form of lack, whether it's feelings about, our country and some feelings of chaos, whether it's simply just feelings of loneliness about not being able to get together on this Thanksgiving for the holidays. See, a problem develops into a problem when we look at it as a problem and when we see other people as being others, not one. And the answer to any problem really is going to begin with clear thinking. So clear thinking is the first answer. In clear thinking, I'm talking about getting in direct communication with what you can call our higher power. I find I am able to think clearly when I take time to sit quietly. Maybe I'll start by reading a passage from The Science of Mind by Holmes, but you can use any inspirational reading you like, or you can listen to music a little, or sometimes I will actually just listen to one of the meditation videos on our own website, right here on Facebook or on YouTube. We've got plenty of meditation videos. And what it does is it allows me, and I think you'll find it allows you to simply relax. And when you begin to simply relax, you can begin to release or let go of nagging thoughts and worries, like whatever is bothering you. Just begin to let go and gently silence that monkey mind. And sometimes it's not so easy. So if that's happening to me, in each case, each time a nagging thought comes into my mind, I imagine that it's tied to me by a string that I can simply cut. So in my imagination, I just keep cutting the strings, tying all those thoughts to me until I feel like I've just created a little open space around myself, and those thoughts kind of drift off, and they allow me some space and some silence. Then I generally begin by saying an affirmation. Maybe God is. I am. God is. I am. Or a mantra, or perhaps a prayer. Sometimes I'll say the Lord's Prayer a few times. And by doing this, I'm beginning to set an intention. I'm setting an intention to allow myself to actually feel safely held in the center of goodness, in connection with my higher power. I give myself permission to feel at peace. That's my usual pathway to meditation. There are many pathways. You don't have to follow that one. But once you are in this meditative state, or let's just say once you can come to a more peaceful frame of mind, and it might be maybe you feel this peaceful frame of mind when you're walking outdoors. I've got a picture of time I spent outdoors near the Mississippi River in a forest near Grafton, Illinois, and it just helps me remember, yes, there is peace in the world. Once you enter this more peaceful frame of mind, it's the perfect time to count your blessings, to become grateful, to see that life is for you, life is for me, to see that life is for all of us, to see that there is good, there has been good, there will be good. Each of us is a spiritual being, a child of spirit or God, and therefore as God's children, obviously, there must be good for us. And when you recognize that, then the feeling, that spirit of loving kindness is just a natural thing that happens. Then you can begin to look at situations and people and desires with clear thinking, and those nagging thoughts that were jumping around either vanish or take on a new appearance, are seen more clearly. So when I am at the place of loving kindness and clear thinking, I find I am no longer frustrated. I am no longer angry. I become more empathetic. I become aware of other people as being perfect children of God, but distinct from me. I think of my very own children as being independent, able to think and make their own perfect, highest decisions. So remember earlier I was talking about the difference between empathy and sympathy. When I understand that a person I might disagree with or even agree with is also God's child just like me, when I gain some understanding of why it is they think or do whatever it is they think or do, or I don't have to sympathize, I don't have to agree, I don't have to share their feelings, but when I see them in this clear light, the light of empathy, whether I know what motivates them or not. And I just want to say, sometimes I'm just mystified. I can't really wrap my mind around a relationship or thought about a person. What I do is I'll just think of that person as a small child. I'll just imagine them as they were as a baby, and I'll see indeed they are perfect, whole, and complete. And I'll understand more that while I may not understand it, a lot has happened to them during their lives. And that helps me let go of any negative or judgmental feelings I may have about people, whether I agree with them or not. And when I get to this point, I see them in a positive way. I can bless them and release them to their highest good. I can use clear thinking to envision good coming from any situation. In our teaching, we never pray for anything but the best outcome for everyone, no matter what. I don't need to know exactly how everything is going to unfold. I just need to know that good is at hand now. This is what Jesus taught us, to give thanks and to have faith. The truth is, we are all brothers and sisters. We are all children of life. We are all connected. It doesn't matter whether you're thinking of someone who has harmed you or thinking of someone that you have lost, someone that you have become apart from due to social distance, due to illness, or due to the passage of time. We are still all connected. Life is still eternal. We are united, and that is the truth. Each of us is born out of that ultimate reality, propelled by spirit, by a power for good coming into expression through us. And when we allow that expression to be the expression of loving kindness, it brings about our highest good and creates an atmosphere of good for all. This is the truth. I know that this Thanksgiving week may be more difficult than past Thanksgivings, or for some people, it will be simple and easy. Whatever it feels like, I invite you to just stop and feel at peace with this situation and allow good to be in expression in your own life, in your outlook, and in your outreach. This is loving kindness. This is the outpicturing of Thanksgiving. There is good for us. Let's enjoy it. I am so grateful to have you in my life, even though you are so distant. I am so grateful for life itself. I know you are blessed. I know there is good surrounding and supporting you. I know you are enjoying, appreciating, and feeling loved because that is the truth. And so it is.